Well, card check is a federal issue. The right to work law is a right to work law. It's not right to work laws. The right to work law means that no one can force you to join a union, and I strongly support that. I think Virginia's economy has done well under our current statute. I do support helping, generally, working people have a good life, and I think there are things that benefits. I've put in bills to help firefighters, for instance, in there to compensate for hazards in the job that they might expect. The labor community is important to us. Some of them are organized in Virginia. But the right to work law itself is not in any danger, Rick.
Higher education in Virginia, as we know, we've incurred some severe cuts in recent funding for higher education. What would you do for funding for all levels of education in the next state budget? Start with that.
Governor Kane has been faced with an enormous array of bad choices he's had to make over the last 4 years. It's been an unlucky time for him to be governor. Some governors get in there, the economy's booming, they can choose everything they want to do and put money everywhere. He has been really great about protecting K through 12 education. He did propose a cut last winter that was pretty serious for a state level cut because we had worked a long time to get full funding of the standards of quality. The cuts to higher education have been very unfortunate. It bothers me immensely that we've had to do that. It happens in every state. There aren't any easy places to cut the budget. 85% of our budget goes to public safety corrections. We have 36,000 or more people in our state prison system. Our Medicaid program, which is mandated by the federal government, is the 48th least expensive one in the United States. The higher education and K through 12 make up the rest of the budget. It's 90% of the budget.
Sure. Yes, look. Education, I have 3 daughters, one that's 10 years old. I'm going to knock this thing over. Education is something that we're that my wife and I are very concerned with. We need to make sure that we can bring more dollars into the classroom. We need to make sure that our teachers are paid appropriately. We need to make sure that they have the appropriate equipment and technology to conduct the classes that they need to do. Also invest in classes such as engineering, math, sciences. I think that's very important. We're not investing enough into that, and other schools, other countries for that matter, are surpassing us in that, with that regard. With regard to some of the university level, I ran into a young woman at Starbucks, kind of echoes what Jay had said. I think she had a 4.1 or something like that, and her SATs were off the roof, and extracurricular activities, and she could not get into the UVA schools, and she's ending up going to the University of Texas. So, as Jay had mentioned, it's a brain drain for the state of Virginia. Excuse me.
Okay, gentlemen, thank you. Given our challenges in funding transportation, given our challenges in funding higher education, now you have to balance the state budget. What would you do there?
Very difficult choices, as I was just mentioning sooner. One thing that I would not do is the Republican plan now for transportation is to sell our liquor stores. That is not going to get out of subcommittee. It's not a real solution. It's a one-time bit of money, even if it happened. And that money now is going to all those things I just mentioned. So if you're going to find money for you can't have money for transportation and then do all the nice things that my opponent just mentioned. It's just impossible. I mean, I'd like to have more engineering teachers and spend more in the classroom and all that. Ferris County does a pretty good job of keeping the money in the classroom. The school board, I work closely with them to make sure that our resources are doing well. We only give 20% of it, of course, comes from the state, as was mentioned earlier. So my top priority is to protect education first, do the best we can on higher education. That tuition alternative is a killer out there. We're not going to let felons out of our prisons. We have no parole, folks. We did that years ago. No parole. We are at a 40 to 50 per capita on every spending category except corrections in the United States.
Once again, the budget, I agree. It is a tough issue. It's going to be a huge challenge. Education and transportation are one of the things that I'll be fighting for most, but the budget and trying to balance it is going to be something that will take a lot of time. We're going to look at different ways reprioritizing that, where we're going to spend, what we're going to do, and how we're going to go about it. We need to think outside the box and find alternative revenue sources. In addition to that, reprioritize some of our spending, figure out what works, what doesn't, and cut that doesn't work, and redirect that money into things that do.
Final question. We heard the state funding formula mentioned in the last discussion, and we'd like to ask both of you, that's a consistent source spot here. So let me start with Delegate Sickles. How would you approach this issue in the upcoming legislative session as a legislator? What's more back?
Right, okay. We're getting about 40% of all the transportation money that's being spent in Virginia now. The only interstate construction projects that are going on are right in our backyard, the entire state. So we're doing relatively well on the transportation, seeing that Fairfax County is going to have 0 secondary road funds next year because of the crisis that we talked about earlier. There is no overall formula for how the money comes back. We have formulas for police, and they're called 599 formula. We have the LCI, which has been mentioned earlier. There have been bills before. In every state, the rich area is going to pay for schools and ports. And this is mandated by the U.S. Supreme Court. The question is the extent of it. Right now, 0.8 on the LCI is the maximum amount. We need to lower that with time. The way the formula works, you can't get 51 votes to do that. So I think what's going to take is an opportunity sometime in the future, don't know when it is, but it might come along where people want to get something done where we can trade something for it. And that's the only way we're going to get it. We're never going to get it on a straight up and down vote. It's not going to get out of subcommittee.
Thank you. If I understand the question correctly, yeah, I trade something for it. I think that's interesting. I would entertain something like that. I mean, that's part of the problem is we do need to redirect some of those monies back up here. I feel that the best way to do that is to reach across the aisle and to get that 51 vote, be able to work with the legislators down that represent Southern Virginia, West Virginia districts. We're not going to be able to do that otherwise. It's been an issue and it's been a constant battle for years. But if we're going to be able to bring some of those dollars back, we're going to have to work together and find a happy medium between the two parties.
There was so much more I wanted to talk about today, and hopefully you'll be around for longer than I can tell you about my research bills. Thank you for coming today and your interest in good public policy. I often brag about our #1 status for business in the nation. We just named #1 for the 4th year in a row by Fortune magazine last week. We're in a tough economic environment now, so none of these choices are easy. The budget's going to dominate everything you do if you stay back at Richmond this winter. I'm going to focus on higher education, building our research universities, transportation, helping families with disabled children is something we get to talk about today. I want to keep government out of the most private decisions a person or family might be faced with. I want to protect your privacy in a world where it's too easy to lose it. I'm committed to fulfilling our special responsibility in cleaning up Chesapeake Bay. I'm going to look for legislation to come out of our Energy and Environment Commission as this thing moves forward. We need to work on public transportation. We've got to get people out of cars in the long run. During my time, we've established a dedicated rail fund. We need to beef that up. We're doing a project right through the heart of my district right now to the 3rd rail line that will help VRE move through the area. Thank you very much. I appreciate your vote. Thanks for listening.
Again, Tim Nank, I'm in the 43rd District. I'm going to say this now. I appreciate the vote, and my website's timnank.com. I just want to let you know, if elected, if honored to serve the people of the 43rd District, they're going to get fresh perspectives, innovative thoughts, leadership, and someone that's going to be thinking out of the box, being able to reach across the aisle, and looking for problem-solving solutions that other people have used and that have worked. In addition to that, we're going to look for alternative funding sources that will be able to help fund our issues, two of our main issues that I feel is education and transportation. Thank you again.